Hi, Betsy Edwards. I'm just checking to make sure everybody's on and can see the webinar screen. They should be able to see Virginia. You should be able to see Virginia Public Notices, which is just sort of the landing page for the statewide website. Bruce, are you on?
Yes, I am here, Betsy.
Okay, great. Everyone else, should be muted at the moment. When you need to jump in and ask a question, you can go in the chat section. You can go into chat and type in your question, which is a great way to not interrupt what anybody's saying, but get a question in quickly. This is Betsy Edwards. I'm the Executive Director of VPA. I'm going to start us off today with just a little bit of an overview on Virginia's VPA's work on public notices and what we think they mean to you and to the Commonwealth. As you all know, VPA is solidly behind keeping public notices in newspapers. I believe this is important for several reasons. One, to have true open government in Virginia, people need access to what's going on in government, and a lot of information is conveyed through public notices. Secondly, we've been doing this for a long, long time, probably more than 100 years, and we think we do it really well. By that, I mean you, the newspapers. And then the third thing is, of course, this is an important revenue stream for all of us, and we don't want anything to happen that would diminish that revenue stream. So every year in the General Assembly, we work hard to make sure that there are no bills that would remove public notices from website newspapers. And of course, in the last several years, a lot of the bills have been about putting public notices on, for instance, local government. It would be on local government websites. And the thinking behind that is, everybody gets their information from the internet. So to counter that, as you all know, we set up a statewide website, which is what we're here to talk about today. And as we've reiterated time and time again in the General Assembly, newspapers in Virginia provide access to public notices in their print editions. They have them on their newspaper websites, and now public notices are available to be free and keyword searchable on the statewide public notice website. So we believe we've covered the waterfront, and there's no need to move public notices out of newspapers. There's 3 different ways people can find them, and everybody knows where to go to get them. So we have teamed up in the last year or so with some local government associations, the Virginia Association of Counties and the Virginia Municipal League, to make sure that public notices stay in newspapers. And one of the things we did was produce a public notice guide. So it's a guide to the Code of Virginia where all the places in the code where public notices are required. And we're going to mail each of you a copy of that guide later today. And in the next week or two, we're going to be getting the guide downloaded onto flash drives, which we're sending out to people. So that'll be a way for you to find, when someone calls you about a public notice, you'll be able to look in the guide and see what the requirements are. So that's pretty much what we've been doing with them, and we believe that it's important to keep them there, and so we're going to keep working with all the different constituencies to make sure that happens. One of the ways we kept them in the last year is to offer a new piece of legislation, which Bruce Potter is going to talk about in a minute. This was a key piece of legislation, and as you all know, that bill became a law on July 1. So the new law is that all newspapers that accept and publish public notices must upload those public notices to the Virginia Press Association website. That's the law, and that includes display or classified public notices. It's any kind of public notice. It could be from government, it could be from, utilities, it could be from foreclosure trustees, a university. We don't care where it's from. As long as it's a public notice, whether it's in display or classified, you must, by law, upload it to the VPA statewide public notice website, which we're going to show you how to do today. So if you have any questions about that after today's call, feel free to call me or Adrian Long or anyone at VPA. We can help you with that. But we want you to understand that if you don't upload to the VPA website, technically you're not in compliance with that law. And if someone checks to see whether you're uploading and finds that you're not, they could put their public notices in a different newspaper, one that is uploading. So it's important that you do it because we've entered into this agreement to make sure it happens, and also because it gives access to the public in a free and keyword searchable way. So that's my overview of sort of the legislative issues behind public notices, and I'm going to turn it over now to Bruce Potter. Bruce is a member of the VPA board. He's publisher of the Inside Nova papers in Northern Virginia, and Bruce is on the State Freedom of Information Council, and Bruce is sort of he's the most knowledgeable guy about public notices on our board and probably within Virginia. So Bruce is going to give you an overview quickly about the law and how that works. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Bruce.
All right. Well, thank you, Betsy, and I think Betsy did a good job of just kind of explaining the little bit of background behind why we wanted to get the law changed. And really what we did, as Betsy said, we worked with Virginia Municipal League and the Association of Counties, which represents all the local governments in the state. And we heard from them, a number of different issues that local governments had with public notices and the reasons why they were trying to get the public notices out of the newspaper. And those reasons ranged from not knowing which papers were qualified to be a paper of record, not knowing how a paper qualified to be a paper of record, being worried about what happens if they have no newspaper of record covering their locality, and also not being able to find public notices for their particular locality. So in looking at the law, there were some things that needed clarification. There were some things that had changed over the years in terms of Postal Service regulations and so forth. So, with the opportunity to kind of address the full spectrum of issues, we wanted to take advantage of that opportunity. And what we put together had full support of the Virginia Association of Counties, the Virginia Municipal League, and the General Assembly. It passed unanimously in both houses of the General Assembly. So there are not really a lot of substantial changes in terms of how one qualifies to be a newspaper of record. Really, there are two ways you qualify. Those two ways are the same as they were before. The first way is if you have a periodicals permit from the U.S. Postal Service. This used to be called a second-class permit, but the Postal Service changed its nomenclature a few years ago. It's now called a periodicals permit. In order to have a periodicals permit, you typically have to have 50% of your circulation be paid or requested. And the important thing is that every October, you have to file with your local post office a statement of ownership that is called a Form 3526. And you have to publish that statement of ownership in your paper, usually around the 1st of October. So if you have a periodicals permit, you publish that statement of ownership every October. Those requirements really didn't change. The only thing that was changed there was that we clarified some language regarding publication schedules. It was a little unclear as to publication schedule, and a lot of weekly papers in particular will take a break over the holidays, and so they don't publish for 52 successive weeks. Typically they publish for 50 or 51 weeks every year. So we wanted to make clear that as long as you publish for at least 50 weeks a year, that you are qualified to publish public notices. So you can take that break over the holidays and not lose your ability to publish public notices. If a newspaper does not have a periodicals permit, in other words, it doesn't file that statement with the post office every year, it doesn't have 50% paid or requested circulation, which is a free newspaper. Essentially, most free newspapers would fall under the second part of this. Then really the only change under existing law, you had to go to the circuit court and get circuit court order to be a newspaper of record. You had to show that you covered the local community, and that you had significant distribution within that community. And in order to prove distribution, you had to file a copy of your circulation audit, which means you had to have audited circulation. None of those requirements have changed. Some language was clarified to make it clear that the requirements applied to the jurisdiction in which you're publishing the notices, and also the audit requirement to make it clear that you had to file an updated copy of that audit every year or every other year when you file your affidavit with the court, verifying that you still meet the requirements. So again, it was a little bit of clarity in that part of the language, but overall the general requirements did not change. And the 50-week requirement was also applied to that section as well. That's where some of the uncertainty lay. And then really the other requirements really address some of the concerns that legislators and local governments had regarding, okay, now we know who can publish public notices, but I still don't know sometimes where to find them. So we wanted to make it clear that you've got to put them, a fairly substantial sized label or heading, at least 24-point type, that you have to have a link to public notices on your homepage of your website. You have to post them in front of any paywall on your website. And of course, as Betsy said, the important requirement of putting them on the Virginia Press Association website. So that's really I think the highlights of the major changes. There's some language, of course, in there about what happens if a locality does not have a newspaper of record, and then what do they do? At this point, I don't think I'm aware of any that have run into that, but there is now a process in there in the law that would help any locality that found itself in that particular situation. So that's really, I'm happy at any time to answer any specific questions from anybody that has any. But that's really a good an overview of kind of the changes in the law.
Thanks, Bruce. So we told you about why we think public notices are important. Bruce has told you about these changes and why it's important that you comply. And we now like Adrian, who's our go-to person with technical support here, to lead you through how to do uploading. So we're going to turn it over to Adrian.
Okay, guys, I think I've worked with a lot of you guys just briefly in one-on-ones. I know Betsy talked about the public notice user guide, but we have a user guide also for our public notice website, and we'll go ahead and get a copy of that out to anyone that's here today that doesn't have one. I think most everybody does have one, but if you don't, we'll get you a copy. We'll send it out with the follow-up if this is concluded. So I guess the first thing we're going to do is, as you can see on your screen, you can see the Virginia Public Notices website, which is the public side of the website. A lot of people that are new to uploading, they tend to go to the public side of the website, and that is not where you want to log in because we actually upload the notices on the back end. So in the user guide, there's going to be a link that it's an admin portal that you log into. If you do not have a login for your paper or anyone at your paper, I need you to contact me or anyone here at VPA, and we will get you set up. We have to set you up initially, and then after that, the person that has access is able to add their own users as there's turnover or as the positions change and new people come, and you need to have someone else do it so that there's no lag. We've made it to where users can add their own, or publications can add their own users. So what I'm going to do is just log in and come to the main screen here. Let's see. We talked about the user IDs, and you're able to add your own user IDs. The view that you're seeing is actually my view because we have administration control over all publications. When you log in, you're only going to see your publication information. You won't see everyone else's. So the first thing we're going to do is go over here to users and publications. Give me 1 second. Okay, so you can see all the users that are listed for all the different publications. The easiest way to navigate this is when you want to add a user, you just click Add User, and then you input all of their information. We do have 2 different types of uploads that you're able to do. You're able to do a manual upload, which is what this webinar is about. We also do auto uploads. Auto uploads are a little bit more technical, and we have to get with your hosts of your websites and so forth like that. So if there's anyone on this call that wants to do the auto uploads, reach out to us after this call, because that's a little bit more one-on-one and a little more invasive into getting that set up, but it's completely easy to do. Also, we just have to do that one-on-one. So this is adding a user. You just go through, put all the information in. If you are an auto uploader, you always want to click this button here that says Notice Upload is an Error. So what that's going to do is when you have set everything up through your auto upload company, they are going to, if something crazy happens and you get an error, they're going to send that to you so you know, and you just don't automatically think your uploads are posted and they're not. So you'll just go through and put in their email and give them a password, activate their user. Once you enter someone, you'll be able to select the paper that you want them to be added to. When you're a group, so say you're like BH or something like that, and you have 15 different papers, you can give your users only certain access to certain papers, or you can give them access to all. It just depends. So I think the first thing that we're going to do is go into public notices and just do a simple, quick manual upload. So what we're going to do is you'll always go over here to public notices on your tab, and you're going to go to this little green button that says Add a Public Notice. When you do that, it gives you 2 different types of ways to enter. You can enter manually, which is where you go through and you take the text from a public notice that you've received. We'll just use this one as an example. You take that text and you just paste it directly onto the notice. You can also click here and it'll take away the formatting to where it's just posted plain with no formatting. A lot of publications do it this way just to where it's all there and there's no formatting errors that cause errors within the text. And that is if you're going to do it just a single upload. So we're going to go through the process of doing this manual text upload. After you've put it all in, you're going to select the publication. As I stated before, this drop-down contains all of the publications, but it's only going to show the ones that you have access to or that you've been given access to. So we're just going to go with this one. Even though you've selected it, you still need to click the Add Publication green button because it's there, but you haven't added it. And until you add it, it's not there. So if you try to go through and proceed, it's never going to load because it needs to be added. Then you're going to also select the date that you want it to publish. These dates should mimic when this public notice runs in the paper. So this public notice website is a mirror image of what's been printed in the papers. You still also, even though the date's there, you have to click Add Date so that it goes through and formats. So you're going to then click Finish, Sometimes your browser might give you this. It just depends on the settings of your browser. If you need to upload more notices, you can, or you can close and refresh. And there you go. You see the notice has posted to, or uploaded to the website. Let me be clear, because our notices post to the public site twice, and it's at 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. So it's technically twice a day, but it happens really, really early. So we just say that they post at 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. When these notices publish, so say you were to put them on your, you uploaded them like we uploaded this one now. It's not going to show up until 12 a.m. on this public side of the site. So if you go in right now and you search to see, you're not going to see it because it hasn't been posted. It's uploaded to the site, but it hasn't posted. I know there's some papers that, like if you're a Wednesday publication, you upload them that morning. As long as it still mimics what it was printed, it's okay that it's going to post on Thursday. It's still going to mimic what the paper is. So we're going to go back here. So say that there was something wrong with the notice that you uploaded. If it has posted, you guys cannot make any changes to a notice. You're going to have to call VPA and let us know what happened and what needs to be changed. Because once they post, only the administration side can make any changes. So say this client ran it on 3 run dates and they canceled the last 2. If it's already been posted, you just call us and we'll take those 2 run dates away, so it'll only show that it was printed in your paper on 11/9 and not the 15th and the 19th. And we can make those changes. But if it's still in the upload process, you can make as many changes as you want. So let's go ahead and do another upload. We're going to do an upload of a PDF. Our website that hosts this, if you notice right here, it says upload up to 10 public notices as files. So you can upload a bunch at once. The files that are uploadable are only PDF, text files, and XML files. JPEGs, if you have a JPEG, it will not upload. There will be an error. Same goes for the auto upload through the FTP site. It does not accept any type of JPEGs, PNGs, TIFFs, none of that. So it always, if you're going to upload a file, it has to be a PDF, a text, or an XML. So we'll go through to next, and we'll go ahead and we'll choose a file. We're going to use one of the Dominion files that we've already ran just to show you guys how to upload it. You click on that file, you hit next. Then it uploads it just as a standard text document. You go ahead and you select a publication. Always add your publication. Then you need to select a date. Always select add date. And you can add multiple dates too. That gave me an error because I added a date that wasn't a date. So it kind of, it's very, very self-explanatory, and if there's an error or something happens, everything can be fixed. So there's nothing that you can mess up by getting in here and learning it and figuring things out. Like, you're not going to hurt anything. All right, so we're going to do that, and we're going to hit finish. And we're going to close and refresh. Because what that does when you upload files, it actually uploads the PDF. So when this posts onto the website, you're going to see the text like we saw before, but this one is also going to have a PDF that anyone can click and see exactly the PDF that ran in the paper. So for instance, if you were to click that, there's the exact PDF of that Dominion ad that ran mirror image in the paper. So that really honestly is the process to uploading just a manual upload of a text document and a PDF. So with that said, I think if any of you guys have any questions or any type of thing that you need us to walk you through, to give us a email or a call here at VPA, because we're always available to do a one-on-one with any of you guys that might still have questions or might just want to walk through it with me so you feel more comfortable, because we definitely want to make sure that everyone has been educated and understands any need. One of the most common problems that I stated before was when people are looking to go to the site to log in, they tend to go to this site, but you actually need to go to the admin site, which we're going to give you the link in the user guide when we send that out shortly if you don't already have it. All right. And yes, I think there was a question here. Let's see, how about JPEGs? Are they then saved as a PDF? Or so you can't use, if you take a JPEG and you turn it into a PDF or you turn it into a Word document text file, that's fine. You just can't upload any PDF or any JPEGs to the site. So I'm going to, give me just a second, and we are going to unmute all of you, so be prepared, and see if there are any questions. If anybody has any questions, if you could go to the chat screen or the question screen, that would be super helpful, and then we could answer your questions that way, because I think there's too much background to do it any other way. Okay, there was one question that says, when we get legals from VPA, do we have to upload them, or does VPA upload them? VPA doesn't upload anything to the public notice website, because that's it's done through the papers, because that's what, you know, when it ran, you know, what date it ran, so you will upload anything that comes from VPA that's a legal ad just as you would from any other client.
Yeah, and you all should know that from the user standpoint, from the public standpoint, they're going on that VPA website and they're looking a couple different ways for public notices. One way they can look is by newspaper. So that's one way they can find it. They can see what, you know, whatever the Charlottesville Daily Progress is uploaded that week, that month, that year. Another way they can go is through the city or the county. So they can find them that way. Another way they can go is, of course, as we've talked about before, keyword searchable. So they could go highway construction or RFPs from universities or, you know, any number of ways. But the whole premise of this is, and the way we keep these in your papers, is to explain to the legislators and the public, it starts in the printed newspaper, then it goes to the newspaper's website, then it goes to the public notice website. So that keeps, we say that process is absolutely key. So, you know, you are running all kinds of public notice websites, and it's important that you take all the ones in your paper and you upload them to the public notice website. So I think that's about it. We haven't seen any other questions, but we're happy to answer them one-on-one if you want to contact us after the webinar. We're really, really happy that so many of you joined us today. We know how important public notices are to you, to us, and to the Commonwealth. And so we're here to help you do anything in any way you need to make sure that you're uploading your public notices quickly and easily. So thank you so much for participating. And we'll be sending you the information, the guide, and how to upload guide, and good luck with all your public notice uploading.